Hey everybody, Bob here. I'm going to show you in this video how to import historical scores for your league, which is useful for new leagues who want to get a score history going for handicap purposes. Historical scores, which you can manually enter right here, um, are only used for handicaps. It's not going to be in any stats. It's not going to affect points or scoring or anything like that. So what we're going to do is first look at our score history Excel spreadsheet. I've already imported players right here from the other video. I show how to do that. And I'm going to look at our score history here. And one thing about this is that you can import your score history, and one of the options is to add the player name to the system if it's not in there already. So you don't necessarily have to go through both importing players and importing scores, just depending on what you want to do. So the first thing that Golf League Tracker needs is the name column into two separate columns. I need a last name and first name. And in Excel, it makes it really easy for you to do that. We're going to highlight the column, go up to our data menu, and click on text to columns. And it's going to ask me what's the data like. And in this case, it's a delimited field with a comma. Delimited means separated. The first and last name are separated. Sometimes you're going to have them, if it's first name space last name, you're going to want to separate by a space. But in this case, I'm going to click delimited and click next, and I'm going to separate by a comma. So comma's already checked, and you can see in their data preview, it draws a line where it's planning on separating the name. So I click next, and now it wants to know where do I want this new name in the data. I'm going to click on destination, and I'm going to highlight my cells at G and H and click finish. And just like that, it separates the columns into last name and first name. Couldn't be much easier from Excel. We're going to save this file, so I have my file updated. And in this case, I have 4 different names with various scores in here. And I'm going to show you a couple of the features in the import that will make your life a little bit easier. I'm going to go to League Setup and click Import Data. And I'm going to import the scores, begin score history import. It asks me where the file is. I'm going to click on Choose File, and it's right here. It's my score history. You can import an Excel file or a CSV, which is a comma delimited file. I'm going to click Open and Upload. So the first thing it does, it shows all our data from that Excel file in this big grid. And I can hide columns that I'm not going to use, so it makes it a little bit easier to maintain and manage this upload. In this case, I don't care about the last name, comma, first name, and I'm going to hide this column by clicking the hide box. Okay, so what we need to do is match up the names and the columns in this data with the columns in Golf League Tracker. If we click on the select list, you'll notice that for historical scores, we need 5 different columns at minimum. We need the first and last name, the date of the score itself, and the par. If you use course rating and slope for your handicap calculation, you will also want to upload that. If you don't choose that, it's going to default to the par of the course and 113 for the slope, which is the USGA neutral value. All right, so now I just need to match up our columns with the columns in Golf League Tracker. In this case, this is our date, obviously. So I'm going to pick Match Date. And it highlights the column to show me that I've selected this date for import, or this column for import. Here's our score. I'm going to pick Score, and then Par. And I'm just going to go down here and pick my required fields. This is last name and first name. Now I am using course rating and slope, so I also want to pick that. So the way Golf League Tracker works is that if a player exists in the player list, it will match up the name exactly with that player. So if you have a misspelling or a little different spellings for the players' names, you need to clean that up first because otherwise it's not going to know how to match the player names. You can also add players that it doesn't find in the list automatically by clicking on Add New Players to Player List. So I can scroll down and look at all my rows. I really don't want this row to import because that's just our header row. But Golf League Tracker is smart enough to know that this isn't a valid row. And I'm just going to click Import and let's see what happens. So it just takes a second and we get a result report on what it did. So you'll see it imported Derek Harris, but I thought I had Derek already in the player list. Maybe not. We'll take a look. It says the player's added. And in this case, it did not import that header row, and it tells you right here, no, it's not imported. I'm going to go back to our player list, and I'm going to look. Oh, here's why. I have two Derek Harrises. They're spelled differently. So in the import for the scores, it's with an I, and the player name is already in there with an E. So it couldn't match it up. So I'm going to delete the guy that we just imported. I'm going to go into the player list and delete this Derek Harris. I'm going to go back to League Setup, and I'm going to click on Edit Historical Scores to take a look to see what's happened. So you can see it added all the scores that were in my list under the correct player with the rating and slope and the score.